All right, so my name's Auri Rahimzadeh. Just call me Auri. It's a lot easier. And I'm a principal software architect over at Momentum 3. And tonight we're going to talk about what's new in .NET 10 and VS 2026 and C Sharp 14. How many people here have installed VS 2026? Okay, we got 7 people. And I'm not looking at everything in Teams, but I see one. Okay, Audine. Oh, there we go. And Justin. Must be a lag in what I'm saying, right? Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, Sean installed it and didn't use. Okay, cool. That's okay. No judgment here. It's only March. Uh, and then how many people have upgraded any projects to .NET 10? Gotcha. Okay. And then I'm just so I understand, I won't go on and on surveying everyone. How many people are you still staying on .NET 8 because of LTS or what have you? Okay. And what about .NET 9? Okay. Does anyone not know what LTS is? Okay. Cool. So you're nodding your head. I don't know if that means that yes, you don't know. Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you questions while you have pizza in your mouth because it's funny to me. All right. Anyway, you can learn more about me and stuffs by going to my website, re.net. It's very hard to remember, I'm sure. My latest thing, if you want to check it out, I was telling everyone in here about it, was the developer rants. So if you go to re.net, I actually list them all there. I probably need to add a couple. But anyway, that's just where I go and chat about some developer topic of the day, and I spend like 2 minutes on it. So, while you're cooking dinner, you can hear me whine about something. I don't know. Anyway, so we're going to talk about a few things tonight. Uh, I'm not going to do like live code. That doesn't always go well. And all you're going to do is watch me switching screens. And that sucks. So I'm going to show you code examples, and you can ask questions anytime you want. Hopefully, this all makes sense and I explain it well. So we're going to talk about .NET 10 overall, Visual Studio 2026. I will not be reading directly from the slides, even though right now it kind of sounds like I am. What's new in C Sharp, and then the things we love, EF Core and ASP.NET. Uh, oh, you don't love ASP.NET or EF Core? Are you a Dapper guy? You were just doing this. Oh, Entity Framework Core. Do you know what Entity Framework is? Okay, so it's an ORM. Okay. Okay, look it up. That's not the topic of today. Anyway, it makes working with databases very, very easy. That's probably, yeah, it's not algorithms. Sorry, Victor. It's not math. It's not math. And then, of course, we'll talk about Blazor, near and dear to my heart. And then you can ask questions anytime you like, no problem. Um, cool. So, what is with .NET 10, right? Uh, so it's an LTS release, long-term servicing release. So in case you don't know what that is, .NET 9 is an interim release. And in between, that's in between .NET 8, which was the previous LTS release. And now we have .NET 10, which is the current LTS release. So basically you get 3 years of support instead of 18 months. Did they just change it? Are they going to make it 4 years or something? Oh, when did they change that? Oh, I just read all this. Okay, well, anyway, now they're ending at the same time. Great. That's the good news about Microsoft. They are consistently changing. Anyway, it's still an LTS release though. At the end of the day, huh? Yeah, okay, so it's still 2 years for the standard, but you get 3 years with long-term support. So that hasn't changed. So instead of 18 months, it's 2 years. Now, so it's long-term support through 2028. 5 + 3, 8, 2028, right? Uh, November 2025 through November 2028. Fine. It's like an election cycle. Now, uh, if you're not going to adopt .NET 10, I get it. You might as well adopt .NET 11 because that's out now too in preview. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I do want to play with it, you know? We'll see. We'll see. But yes, .NET 11 is already out, or .NET 1.1. Okay. That joke didn't land. Thank you. Um, there was one kind of cool thing that I didn't really get into, and I didn't know how to categorize it. You can start, and this is not entirely new, but it got better in .NET 10. Is you can actually use C# as a script. So kind of like C#, or just like Python, or not really JavaScript, really more like Python, more like Python. And you can just say .NET run, and then the name of the CS file or what have you, and it'll run just like Python can execute by py and then whatever .py. The cool things about .NET 10 is now it can auto install any related NuGet packages. So there's some syntax that you can put at the top that's like hashtag NuGet and like the name of the library, and it'll automatically bring that in as part of the execution process. So that's pretty cool. I'm curious if anyone's going to use it. I think it'd be nice, but I haven't found like the use case yet because I'm just so used to writing console apps. So it's kind of like writing the console app without the compiler if you're doing something simple. Is it still building and executing? Yeah, but it's still building it. It's still calling .NET run. So it's not a script. Still compiling it. Right. That wouldn't make any sense if they interpreted it because .NET's not built that way. Right. So you don't have to put it in a project. You can execute the CS directly. And that's not new in .NET 10. That's been around since like .NET 8, maybe even earlier. But they've improved it. Now, to be fair, I have not met outside of like a just mentioning it or a conference. I have not met one single person who has used that feature. Has anyone in this group done it beyond just like playing with it? What's similar? Oh, uh-huh. C#, script memory. Oh. It uses that same syntax for. Oh, got it. Okay. Oh, okay, yeah. It's like LinkPad. Sean is saying he uses file-based apps, especially for CI/CD pipelines. It's much better than PowerShell. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. So now I haven't met you exactly, Sean, but well, technically, maybe I don't know. That makes a lot of sense though. Like it's so much better than PowerShell. Yeah, and you can test it. Yeah, details testing. Neat. Okay. Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, all that stuff with PowerShell, and it's so similar to C#, and you're like, why not just use C#? Okay. Anyway, should you upgrade, right? I mean, that's an important one. You don't have to upgrade, just to be clear. You don't have to upgrade. .NET 8, .NET 6 even isn't suddenly going to break. It's not. but you're not going to get security updates. And you're not going to get updates. Doesn't matter what kind of update, you're not going to get updates once it falls out of the support window. This is true of all software. This is not just a Microsoft thing. Apple does it, IBM does it, Oracle does it, insert whatever here. Even open source solutions do it. They're like, hey, we're on this version, you're on that version. If it's too old, we won't support you. And if it's open source, you might get heckled, depending on how old. So anyway, so if you want the latest features, upgrade and take advantage of this. But there's no rush. And years and years and years ago, I was taught the old adage, after any new software release, wait 9 months. Yeah. Not just with Visual Studio, but any software. Generally, within 9 months, the bugs will have been worked out. And I think that's true of pretty much anything. Games, right? Definitely. Yeah. Well, it's EA. That's why when you say it, it's like, eh. Okay. Huh? Okay. I thought that joke was okay. It landed kind of. Now, if you're building mobile apps, you definitely should upgrade. If you're using Maui, you want the Maui that's in .NET 10 and C# 4. Well, I mean, C# 14 gives you additional language syntax features, but it's really the .NET 10 version of Maui that's started to become like the real, like serious stuff. They got pretty close with .NET 9, but .NET 10 really helps. So if you're a mobile developer using Maui specifically, this doesn't mean like Uno or any of the others, then definitely consider an upgrade to .NET 10. Blazor, maybe. Now, if you need the AOT compilation improvements that are in Blazor, you have to upgrade. And then, obviously, if you're building new projects, you shouldn't start with .NET 9 because it's standard term support, STS. You want the long-term support, and it's not going to hurt you. And if it does, I'm sorry. You can blame me. You can get your money back for this presentation. Yeah, you don't get the pizza was free. Okay. And if performance is critical, there are a lot of great performance improvements, especially in ASP.NET and definitely in Blazor. And I'll get into some of that stuff. Now, like I said, you don't have to upgrade. So .NET 8 and 9, perfectly fine. If you already have a production app and it's working fine, chances are .NET 10 is not going to be the thing that makes it tons better. Now, if you're having performance issues in your app, again, .NET 10 probably isn't the thing that's going to solve your problems. You probably have an architectural issue or some other issue, some code smell that needs to be rectified. But the key is you don't have to upgrade until you're ready. That'll save you some money. And of course, if you rely on third-party libraries that have not caught up yet, any new .NET can have breaking changes. So does everyone understand how semantic versioning works? So if you understand semantic versioning, look at the version numbers. If it goes from 9.0 to 10.0 or 3.0 to 4.0, chances of a breakage is high because it's semantic versioning. You go from 3.0 to 3.1, the chances tend to be a lot less. So keep that in mind as you're looking through your packages. If they, the latest version you got or the one you're using is 2.7, they release a new version and it's 2.8. Chances are there shouldn't be major breaking changes in it. But if it went from 2.7 to 3.0, full stop. And be careful. Especially if you're on a timeline or have a small development team. Yeah. 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 So I think if you went from .NET 8, like you're saying, if you went from a recent version of .NET, like .NET 7 or 8 to .NET 10, maybe not even .NET 7, maybe 8 to 10, you'd probably be okay because the changes are minimal. And like, program.cs, for example, really hasn't changed all that much since then. It's really more what what you're adding to builder dot something, right? But .NET 6 and .NET 7 didn't have the simplified program.cs structure, and that might take more time for you to move up. So if you don't have to, no. Well, I mean, you oh, there's certainly breaking changes. If you go try upgrading like a .NET 6 project to .NET 10, there's stuff that's not going to work. It's been deprecated, and you can't just like in place upgrade without issues. Um, but I think your chances are lower of having breakage going .NET 8 and above, just because it's finally getting more mature. You know, uh, that at least that's been my experience trying that in place upgrade. Um, yeah. So if you didn't hear that, there's a new modernizer in Visual Studio 2026 for the upgrade process. Okay, so VS 2026. Uh, I am using it every single day now. Uh, I don't really have any projects that are prior like .NET 6, so I've found zero breaking issues. But the one thing I've noticed with 2026 is it is stupid fast. It's stupid fast. Like it's seen and embarrassing how slow 2022 was. So anyone who here hasn't upgraded to 2026? Okay, and who has? Okay. Of those with 2026, with the latest version, not month one, which had its own issues. I agree. Uh, how many people have had issues with 2026? Yeah, zero hands. Yeah, I've had some. The worst part has been Copilot because like I've had some weird things with 2026, like my one with like ANSI. But you know what's funny? They fixed the bugs that I've been reporting. So that's cool. You know? Yeah. Yep. I think I'm at in the past few months, I think I'm between 7 and 10 bucks. And just silly things. Anyway, but nothing that prevents me on a day-to-day, like from a coding perspective. It was really like Copilot mostly, you know. But gosh, it is so fast. And especially if you have ReSharper, it just works. I mean, it's just like in a few seconds, Visual Studio is up and ready to go. Whereas before, you waited a couple minutes just to be safe. But now, I mean, it's literally ready to go. It's crazy. Um, so incredible speed boost. There's tons of editor enhancements. I'm not going to get into them. If you have not subscribed to the Visual Studio blog or you don't read the release notes, I strongly encourage you to read those release notes because they call out so many incredible new features, and it's sad that the team, I'm guessing, doesn't get a chance to do a what's new wizard every time you launch a new version of Visual Studio to call out every feature they've added because they add tons of new features and they're so useful, but you don't know about them. Yeah, but I'm talking about making sure you call it out because I don't know how many people go and hit like what's new, you know? So like, how many times do you check the version of Visual Studio or hit the help window? Oh, Ari, just update and then you know. Are you on the insiders build then? Oh, yeah. You like to live dangerously. So a couple other things. They're now on a 1 month cadence. So new releases come out at least monthly. Now I will be the first to complain about that from last year because they started that cadence. And it's right around the time that they seem to be doing all their work in with Copilot, and things were really buggy, but they've turned that ship around. And the quality of the releases has been incredibly high recently. So whatever they were doing wrong for a few months, especially like when it came to Maui, they broke builds all the time. Uh, they've fixed it. So good for them. So if you're Microsoft and you're listening, whatever you did, it worked. Yay, good job. You also now have MCPs built in. Who here knows what MCP is? Or knows what Model Context Protocol is? Okay, who knows what AI is? All right. So who thinks they know what AI is? Let's talk about large language models for a moment. So MCPs are like extensions for AI. So if you're prompting and you're like, I want you to do blah, 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 you can also, as part of that prompt, say, I also want you to reach out to Microsoft best practices and Azure best practices and confirm that I'm following the best practices and make sure I'm using recent code examples by checking with context 7. And it will go out beyond what the model knows and reach out to these external services and actually do that work. So if you have not used MCPs, MCPs are browsable just like a gallery, just like extensions, but they're extensions for the AI, not extensions for Visual Studio. So it's like a Copilot extension to simplify it. Copilot has been incredibly enhanced. It still is not as good as Visual Studio Code. VS Code just, its Copilot implementation just works. I have a lot of issues with VS. I think they're making it better. We were talking about that earlier. It's probably something with just how the Copilot team has to integrate with the VS IDE, and it's who knows how legacy of a code base. But usually if I need to do something like documentation wise, I actually switch to VS Code and let VS Code do the work, and then I come back to Visual Studio. I really miss ReSharper. I mean, like ReSharper has so many features that I use all the time that I just miss them every time I don't have them. I mentioned editor enhancements twice, so because they're twice as nice. No, it was just a mistake. So C# 14 covered VS 2026. What about C# 14? There's some great things coming, or some great things that we've been asking for, and I'm just going to go through those real quick. One, finally, we have access to the backing field. How many people have created the backing variable for property, right? You do like some underscore, whatever it is, and then you set it. There's no reason you should be having to do that, especially when we have all the syntactic sugar for get and set. So now they have a new field operator. Look how easy that is. Like get field. That's the backing field. Now, if you're using a variable named field, stop. But does everyone know how to escape that so it still compiles? Just put an at in front of it. Put an ampersand, and not ampersand, at symbol. Ampere, is that what that is? Ampere, I think. Anyway, the squiggly A. Put that in front of it and you can continue using it. Just like if you want to name a variable var or you want to name a variable type, feel free to make your dev lead angry and get your PR rejected. Yeah. It would be interesting, like if you could disable it, like say disable field, because all it is syntactic sugar. Right? Does everyone here know what syntactic sugar is? Anyone not know? Okay, syntactic sugar is basically this is a shortcut for code that's being generated at compile time. You know? Yeah, this is not the code you're looking for. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much syntactic sugar. But that's okay. That's why we love it. That's why we love it, you know? Um, so anyway, you can see that in the example. This is such an awesome thing. It just saves you so much time. And the beautiful thing is that if you go and you use Copilot or what have you, it probably knows nothing about this and it'll do it all the old way. And you'll spend 15 minutes trying to fix it to the new way. So just keep that in mind when you're writing code. Before you prompt or before you run your prompt, have it go make itself aware of the field keyword so it uses it. Otherwise, you're going to be angry. I'm curious how that's going to work out. All that's being generated by these LLMs that's using that have been trained on old versions of the languages, and the developers don't know any better or just don't want to spend the time to bring it up to speed. Forget security issues. That's a whole different thing. Uh, just how much crap code is that? Like it's like it's like twice as much code because it's not using the latest constructs, and no one wants to fix it or prompt right or use MCPs. Anyway, learn to prompt. All right. What about null aware operators? Um, so this was true for properties, but I kind of like this. So you say customer null equals new customer. So if customer is null, you can make it a new customer. That's just null equals. That's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. And there's this one I really liked as well. I thought this was a .NET 9 thing, but maybe it's .NET 10. Um, you don't have to check to see if user .profile is no. It just won't execute this line. So if it's .NET 10 and you do this, in .NET, I guess .NET 8 or .NET 9, this would throw a null reference exception because profile doesn't exist. Or probably not profile. User doesn't exist. User's null. It's kind of nice. Now, this could lead to problems. Like you should be aware of when things are null, I think. But anyway. Now, how many people have written, I can't imagine you haven't, extension methods, right? And it's on that static class. But it was never like extensions were never like a first class citizen. It's a static class, and then you use using the static class, and then you know IntelliSense kind of takes care of the rest, and you being able to figure out how to use it, and then it gets compiled properly. Yay! But it really is an extension class. It's an extension. Why wasn't it treated that way? So now they've brought that in and done some very cool things. So one, you can say extension of T, which is nice. Things are readable. This is an extension. Cool. Let's see. I'm looking at all the. I haven't gotten to play with this as much as I've wanted to, but this is pretty cool. Inside of your extensions, you can actually have state now. So let's say you have an extension that does lookups, right? Let's say, I don't know, maybe you extend a string and you say get, I don't know, dot to state code. Okay. Well, you might want to go hit the database for the state code or dot to customer code or whatever. Well, otherwise, what's your option? You got to hard code all the state abbreviations, right? Well, why keep all that data sitting around static using in memory? I mean, that's a big deal, especially if you have multiple instances of something, right? So, how do you solve that? You have a database call, but you only call it once. It pulls all the abbreviation or the abbreviations or mappings from the database and now puts it in a private backing field. You only use that data for as long as it needs to sit there. So you can put it in a cache entry, like if you're using monkey cache or system caching, etc., and have it time out after like 15 minutes. And now look how much cleaner your code is. So kind of cool having state inside of extensions. Mm. Yeah. Oh, it is very cool. Yeah. Anyway, yep. So there's extension blocks, properties, static members. Static members is so cool, and private fields. So insanely powerful. Play. Um, Keyed services is kind of cool. How many people use dependency injection? Right. Okay. I'm not going to ask who doesn't know what dependency injection is. But here's the thing. Prior to .NET 10, you had to, if you wanted to inject different things, or use different providers based on some criteria, you had to do what's shown over here. So, you know, let's see. Yeah, the ugly workaround. So get processor would have, provider would be passed in, and then you'd use this wonderful anti pattern and do the service lookup pattern, right? And go get it. It's kind of ugly, right? Anyway, over here, it's cleaner. Uh, where's there it is, all the way up on top. Can everyone see it? Okay. So you can add a keyed singleton, and then over here in your implementation, you say public, like in your checkout service, from keyed services, Stripe. So now you say, go get me the Stripe payment processor in this one. So where would this be useful? One would be like in a mobile app versus a website. So in a mobile app, you might need mobile app payment for your payment provider. Whereas, on web, you may use Stripe. Well, you can either do this nasty stuff and service lookup, or you can just keep it nice and easy and keyed. And you can, of course, make those, because they're strings, you can make those constants. And then say, provider underscore Apple, provider underscore Google, provider underscore web. And then easily pull these things in and just swap them out, just in the function signature. So it's kind of nice. Yeah. This isn't necessarily bad, but depending on who you ask, well, first of all, this is convoluted. But second, some people will tell you the service lookup pattern, which is being done here, is an anti-pattern. It's violating the principles of IOC. That I don't know. That's a good question. So the question was, because you're not going to be able to hear it, is do you have to use a string for the keyed service? And you can use an enum, you think? Okay. A while ago, meaning prior to. Oh, okay. Got it. So a while ago in the tech field. Got it. Okay. So that you might be able to use something other than a string. So an enum, also a very good point, is you can keep all this in an enum and it's nice and readable. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is cool. I'm .NET 10's so new. I only have like one project that's actually using it because it's that new. All the other stuff is written in like .NET 8 and .NET 9. So, you know. All right. So ASP.NET Core, a lot of cool stuff here. So we'll go over those. I love ASP.NET Core. How many people use minimal APIs? Okay. Who who doesn't know what minimal APIs are? Okay. Who here knows what an API controller is? Okay. So when you're creating minimal API, or when you're creating an ASP.NET Core project that serves an API, generally the pattern has been you build an API controller, right? Great. But why do you need all that pomp and circumstance for something that just is a get call that's supposed to return some data? You can put all of that in your program.cs. So if you want, kind of like the beauty of node projects, they just set up a listener and some function that they put in there that responds back it says listen on this port. If it's a get request at this path, return this. If it's a post at this path, return that. It's a very quick way to set up APIs, and it can be easier to maintain. You don't have this whole solution structure, which we're used to as .NET developers. But if you're a JavaScript developer, a TypeScript developer, or I should say really a Node developer coming to the .NET ecosystem, there's kind of like a WTF moment. And that's where minimal APIs, you really see that shine. But they are very cool. I mean, you need to spin up an API quickly that just does what it's supposed to do. You could do it all in one file if you wanted to, or just two files. And it's much easier to maintain and easier to read. So what they've added, yeah, great. I never formatted this one properly, apparently. The minimal validation, one of the problems was this validation wasn't part of it. You could map these, but you couldn't do validation. Or it wasn't as easy to access or use, so maybe you'd have to call like a validator. In this case, you can now do it. So you say app.map post to this endpoint, and then there you go, using standard data annotations, and then return the result. It's nice. And as far as I understand, it should honor data annotations on objects as well. So yeah, you don't have to follow just this syntax. Yeah. And here you've got one. If you want to disable validation, you can do that too. Like I want to accept anything. So you could still check if model is valid if you want to. Okay. Boop. Now, server-side events. These are not new. There's just some enhancements to it. Does anyone here use SOC? Yeah, I don't use it either. So does anyone know what most people use in a Blazor solution for what, they use SignalR, okay? But SignalR is bidirectional. It's old, but it's fast, it's efficient, but it's bidirectional. If all you need to do is send data to the client, SignalR is a lot of overhead. And it requires that you maintain your connection in order to get this data. SOC lets you do that, kind of like UDP versus TCP. If anyone knows that difference with TCP IP, this would be like the UDP equivalent. So where was it? I'm trying to remember what the trying to remember what they changed on it. There were some improvements. I'm blanking on what they were. I know there's improvements specifically but I think it's just syntax. So it wasn't anything particularly new. There's just optimizations around it. So I need to double check that. But no one here uses it. So yeah. I think they sound really cool. Like if you wanted to get like a stock ticker for example, there's no reason to keep a signal R connection open just to update that ticker. That ticker just needs to listen to an event coming from the server. So it's just a long pole HTTP connection. We all know what that is, right? Where you just keep the connection live. Signal R does the same thing. But Signal R, remember, bidirectional. This just sits there and listens. And the other benefit of SSE, the browser automatically reconnects when a long pole, a long HTTP connection is disconnected. It auto reconnects. So anyway, it's very lightweight. Now, oh, hold on. Oh yeah, I didn't really get over this. I didn't go over this. I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. Yeah, it's part of request filtering. Does anyone use the request filtering feature of ASP.NET Core? So you can do like I only want to allow 10 requests a minute or 1,000 requests a minute. Okay, it's a very important thing if you want to prevent people from doing like a denial of service attack against your server, or hitting an endpoint way too often. For example, let's say you have a get products endpoint. Maybe it's not properly cached or whatever, but get products could be a very expensive endpoint to call. So maybe there's a bug in your client side code where you're they're calling it all the time rather than like caching the data locally, or they're calling the wrong endpoint, like they're not sending the right date value or checking for like a no changes response. And you want to limit them from flooding that endpoint. So with request filtering in ASP.NET, which is not new, by the way, I think even .NET, ASP.NET Core finally had it built in. You used to have to use a NuGet package to do this sort of stuff. You can now, you could say, I only want this endpoint to allow, like, let's say 1,000 connections a minute. And the moment that's depleted, it gives you a 429, or it might be a 409, which is too many requests. HTTP 409, too many requests. It's one of those. I think I just remember having a 9 in it. It's a 4 something 9. Yeah. Anyway, the point is they added some additional functionality in the request filtering to prevent server overload. And it's cool. I mean, if you're not using it, you should be. In production, especially if you have something that's publicly facing, not like just a corporate app, that's only for internal use, where you kind of have some more control over the kind of clientele, you should be using request filtering. Super important. Also, well, not also, but as an example, I threw an MCP out onto the webs, an MCP that I wrote, and within an hour, I had already been scanned of people trying to find vulnerabilities. I found all the little 404s of people trying to hit .github or .git, .github, .this, .that, looking for certain files, all these 404s across stuff they're trying to find. I'm surprised it only took an hour. Yeah. Who did it? I don't know. But request filtering, for example, would help me there if someone tried to find out, try hitting like a login endpoint and overloading it. Because you can lock that down to IP. So you can say with request filtering, you can say how it's filtered. So like, yeah, maybe I only allow 10 requests a minute per IP. Now I'll let legitimate users through, but I won't even process you if you're on my block list. So the middleware takes care. I wouldn't say it's securing you, but it's protecting you. All right. Now, what about EF Core? Now, I don't have a slide for the complex types and JSON. Well, do I? I guess I do. Okay. But first, I want to talk about it. How many people have run into the issue where you've got a table, and let's say the table is tracking like some file data. Okay. So it might have like file name, file type, right? But depending on the type of file, there's additional metadata you might want to know about it. Like photos, you may want to store the resolution and bit depth, etc. Just metadata that you read off of it without actually having to download the entire file and figure it out. And then maybe for Word docs, you might want to store like the author, etc. And then when you're reading these files in, you actually want to bring them in and say, you would cast them. You would say, okay, based on like the MIME type, which you did store, you could say, okay, I want you to pull in the metadata based on the file type. Well, generally the options would be twofold. One, add the columns. And you've got a bunch of columns that are null, right? Which is a nightmare if you're a DBA or you're trying to maintain it or explain this code base to fucking anyone. Pardon my French. Or you could take that data and serialize it to JSON, right? And then you could deserialize it when you read it. That's fair, right? Kind of your own little document DB kind of thing going on, which that's what I would tend to do because I don't need that data until I need that one record. So why would I have like all this pomp and circumstance, all these extra columns just for the one record? So they've started addressing that in EF Core. And in .NET 9, and they've made this better, it seems now in .NET 10. You can actually, in EF, in the type, you can actually say a field is of a particular type and store the data in it like a rich object. And instead of creating like a whole new entity, because there's no backing entity to it, right? EF Core, depending on the the database engine that you're using, will auto serialize or deserialize that to and from JSON. So it'll create that field, but then inside of it, like in SQL Server, it'll do 4 JSON queries. If you're using, like Postgres or what have you, it may have, it may use its document database features, and it'll automatically figure it out. So if all you need is that data at the, at basically the record level, EF allows you to store a complex or store that complex data, and it'll automatically serialize and deserialize it for you, which is super cool. And we've used this to much benefit in certain projects, like especially around like photos. So depending on like if like let's say a post, right? If it had things for sale in it, it would have certain data. And if it didn't have things for sale in it, it wouldn't have that data. But it might have different data. Or if it came from like a business account versus a non-business account. But we only care about that data after we've retrieved the post. So because we know what type of post it is, we can say, switch type of the post. If this, pull in this metadata, and then it just takes care of it. No extra work. All we had to do is just not have the backing entity, and it knows how to serialize and deserialize it. I don't have an example of that in front of me that I can show you, but go look it up. Very cool, and I can show you offline. But here you can also do this as part of the model builder. You can have these complex entities, and you can say a shipping address or a billing address, and this is how it's going to be stored. Now, I think this is cool. I'm not sure yet, because I haven't tried this yet, how this is better than what they already had in .NET 9, an EF core that shipped with .NET 9, with the automatic complex type serialization and deserialization I just told you about. But this is new in .NET 10, so showing it off. Now, how many people have been looking for this? We finally get left join and right join in any framework. Huh? Yeah, you had to do includes. Yeah. It was terrible. It was terrible before. And now they finally get why it took so long to do this, I don't know. I would love to know the story behind it. And was it just in the backlog? Was it really complicated? Depending on the database engine that you're running. How do you make left join and right join work across all? Well, see, that's why I'm not sure about. I mean, in SQL Server, I mean, left join and right join. Yeah, yeah, but how do you make that work? Let's say in like MongoDB, a left join and a right join, or could you? Does it just throw an exception like a not supported exception? Yeah, yeah. All the providers had to shift all their interfaces to comply with the. So I have a feeling that those changes made this kind of stuff possible. And they sent out actually. Okay. So if you couldn't hear in the audience, what was brought up is there were architectural changes in .NET 8, probably the EF core that came with .NET 8. And those architectural changes led to enabling this now. Yeah. By the way, Prasad mentioned for rate limiting, there's system.threading.rate limiting and the package ASP.NET Core rate limit. So getting back to the ASP.NET Core conversation from earlier. Okay. Oh yeah, and then Sean was mentioning for minimal API, I'm guessing for performance and for testing. Yeah, definitely understand it from a testing perspective. Yeah. Okay. And then named query filters. This is kind of cool if you do need to support things such as soft delete, kind of nice. I mean, these cool little query filters. Yep. So ignore, yeah. So you can ignore the query filters. So anything that's not soft, anything, uh, if you ignore the query filter for soft delete, that would get you everything. Okay. Yeah. And if you wanted to, for example, limit it by the tenant, if you're multi-tenant, there you go. Syntactic sugar. Yeah. Yeah. It's another way of doing things. Yeah. Like this would be easier to read. Like where is deleted is 0. Huh? What? Sorry. Yeah. Well, yeah, but yeah. This is policy though. Yeah. 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 This is policy. I mean, by default, you have a query filter on the blog entity on the table or whatever, right? Where softly is B, or probably is anything that's you have a query filter, and any query that's executed on this must not have the deleted flag set to true. Okay? Which that would enforce it on any query, a blog. Not the same as where, right? Because this is policy. But if you want all of it, at least this I could argue would be more readable. Yeah. You know, and you wouldn't have to do some function like, I know that there's a way to do it, but you could say, like dot database, dot filters, dot disable this particular, filter that you have when you did your original model build. This you could just say, hey, when I do this work, I just want you to ignore this. So that's useful to name because you don't have to remember all that syntax. And then the rest of your stuff just continues. Kind of like as no tracking, you know? Huh? Oh, come on, magic strings are great. Well, again, I mean, I would rather you use a constant, you know? I mean, just yes, that's a code smell. Based on what I'm seeing, it looks like a dictionary. So I'm guessing, I don't know for sure. It could be an object, although, man, I'm not sure I would like it to be an object. I mean, like, I could understand. Yeah, but yeah, I know. But then you'd have to have two implementations unless you just had it where it was generic to just strings and integers. Maybe you could do it. I mean, I'd say find out, and then, but the intention of it's clear, right? Okay. Now, what about Blazor? Am I starting to run low on battery? Oh, I'm running low on battery. Uh-oh. I got 22 minutes left. All right, I'll go quick. I could plug in my laptop. I can see that. Oh, yeah. Boop, 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 boop. Let me get my first point here. Well, that went fast. I wasn't expecting that. Oop. I gotta turn off my camera so people don't have to stare at my side as I do this. Okay. There we go. Cool. This is why I should charge to 100%. Okay. So, Blazor. Who here uses Blazor? Okay. So half of you. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. So some great improvements. Number one, this is kind of cool, is the loading changes. So now the Blazor 10 script is a quarter of the size. It's pretty cool. And all of the script loads are links. So they load in parallel. And when you're doing like a WASM, WebAssembly, it loads the UI first. So it looks like it's loading instantly. So you don't have to wait for everything. It loads the framework in parallel with the UI. This is pretty nice. From an auth perspective, there's now support for passkeys. So it just takes care of all of that. And you can check to see if passkeys are available. Now, don't just go enable passkeys and assume that every browser supports passkeys. Be cognizant that passkeys are relatively new and code accordingly. So who here doesn't know what a passkey is? Have you ever gone to a website and it says, hey, you could just make sure you log in without a username and password on this computer, and then it asks you for like a PIN or whatever? That's a passkey. Now, well, it's a credential that's basically saved either in the OS or in the browser. Yeah. 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 It's cool. If you're not using passkeys, you don't have to. I mean, it saves you from having to load your authenticator app, every 30 days. So, or for 30 days, I should say, because it still times out. Now I've never used this, and I learned about it recently, and this is Quick Grid. Does anyone here use Quick Grid? Use Quick Grid? So I didn't really know much of what it was, but it's a very quick way, given a data set in Blazor, to create a table. So it's just a component that's built in. It's like Quick Grid. You give it a data source. It's a data grid from ASP.NET, but now it's called Quick Grid.
It's quicker.
Yeah, it's quicker. And I mean, at least it's not, like the grid from like the 90s, and they call it like Quick Grid X or something, or Active Grid or something, you know. Um, I'm not saying Microsoft, anything. If they're anything, they're consistent. Yeah. Anyway, what they've added now is that you can actually change theming or styles based on the data. That's a new feature. So Quick Grid itself is not new. Just this particular feature. You can now also, this is new, you can now pause and resume Blazor. This is cool. And the reason this is important is you can get disconnected. So pardon me, unload, you can actually tell Blazor to pause, and it'll save the current state to the local history, or not local history, local storage in the browser. And then when you call resume, it'll rehydrate from that local storage. So you don't lose everything when you get disconnected. Kind of nice. Yeah. Blazor server. Yeah, Blazor server. Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool. I have not played with this yet. I want to. Again, well, I don't know if your local storage is encrypted or not. Off the top of my head, I would hope it would be.
It's like you get into some funny stuff. Potentially.
Yeah, I mean, remember, security is up to you. Now, what if you want to persist data in a component between loads? Or you want to make sure that you're not reloading the same data over and over again as you set a property's value. So you can just use this persistent state attribute now. It takes care of that. Nice. So you just say forecasts, if it's null, fetch forecasts. Now it's stored. Done. Don't do that for everything. That has a cost.
That applies to.
Well, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. So that's kind of nice, because before you had to have like a state persistence service and all this other BS to track whether data had been loaded or not. And now you can just load it. Yay. Oh, this is nice. The jankiness of JS interop, not completely gone, but pretty much gone. So now you can even store controllers. So you used to have to do this. Remember, you had to do like evals with JS interop to get a value. So you called eval. Everyone knows how evil that is, right? Not eval, it is evil. It is, right? Like it's bad to have to call eval on JavaScript. And number one, it's not performant at all. Number two, it can be a security risk. So, but this is what you had to do in order to get the data. Like that's how you got it. Now look what you do. So you can actually just say the current value equals the chart object, yay. Get value async int current value. Nice. Let's see. You can set prop. Anyway, much cleaner, much nicer, more objecty and C#y instead of weird combination of the two. This reminds me of like when everything was an object or a dynamic variable. Does anybody remember all the code that used to be like all dynamic? Especially when you originally started working with web services before we had Newtonsoft JSON? Okay. Anyway, no one remembers that pain. It's probably because of PTSD. Compiled validators. This is cool. So prior to Blazor 10, I don't know if that's what they're calling it, but we'll call it Blazor 10, .NET 10, what have you. All the validation occurred via reflection. Yeah, it's cheap. It's insanely expensive. But it doesn't matter when you have multiple gigahertz and gigabytes to work with. You know? Well, now you can get compiled validators. So at compile time, you get validation. Now, you don't get it automatically. You still have to call add validation. If you don't call add validation, it still uses the old reflection. But now you actually get compiled validation. What? I didn't read of any exceptions to it. Now, there might be. Like custom validators probably are not compiled because how would it know? But well, no, it should be able to compile a custom validator. You wouldn't have to do that through reflection, so that should work too. But try to let me know. I haven't tried finding a limitation to it. Okay, there we go. Cool. Hopefully it charged enough I can unplug this. Yay. Boop, 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 boop. Turn my camera back on. All right. Oh, thanks, Sean. Okay. Did anyone have any questions? Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. So the question was, did they fix Blazor WebAssembly hot reload? And yes, apparently that is fixed. And I was actually reading about that today in an article. What was it? What was that? Hot reload for WebAssembly. There you go. Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, now I have not yet created a WebAssembly. Well, I have. I've done one. So I wouldn't say I'm an expert at that one. I want to learn more about it. Just I haven't been given that opportunity to build it yet or the need to. Yay. Uh, but yes, it does exist. Or yes, it's fixed. Oh, oh, okay. So the comment was is that there still is or there maybe was it's still in there. Okay, so there's a bug with debugging WebAssembly Blazor with .NET Aspire. Because it listens on a different port is what was suggested. But anyway, that is a known issue, it seems. So heads up. There was another question. What's up, Victor? Right. So, I mean, one would be the validation, right? Uh, the uh, the persistent state is a thing, because you wouldn't have to hit an API multiple times because this data has already been loaded. That's a thing when it comes to like on initialized async or on after render async. So depending on the state, you used to have to look that up manually, or check, is it dirty? Is it loaded? Am I ready? Etc. Now that's just taken care of for you. So that would have a performance boost. The fewer unnecessary API calls, the better. The fewer round trips to the database, especially if unnecessary, the better. Even if it's a cache hit, that has a cost. Going through calling a function to go get data and then removing, wipe out the old list and put the new one in. You're going to have to allocate new memory, etc. Do you notice it when debugging locally? No. You go get 1,000 requests in a minute? Yes. So those improvements will make a difference. Again, that doesn't mean that you have to upgrade, right? I mean, some of this stuff are things people already found patterns to follow to mitigate them. But now, if you're starting anew, you wouldn't have to do all that extra work, all that extra plumbing in order to make something work. Right? Oh yeah, yeah. All the span of T. Yeah, and I haven't talked about that, but yeah, you're like using spans, using what was it? Uh, binary data instead of byte arrays. Yeah, that's a new one in the latest versions of C Sharp is binary data instead of byte arrays. Um, there's just there's so many there's so many improvements to how you deal with huh? Yeah, definitely look at those. Yeah, .NET supports ARM. Yep. Thanks, Aaron. What is it? That I don't know. So the question was, is .NET going to start supporting the RISC-V platform? I don't know. That I would just check Microsoft site to ask, you know. Um, that's something I would probably, if it's not published anywhere, although I would think if it's on the roadmap that it would be published somewhere. They're pretty open about those things. I mean, I don't know why you would hide that support. Uh, is I would just post in the forum, say, yeah, if you want it, like you say for performance reasons, uh, who can I talk to at Microsoft to suggest it? My guess is they're going to say, open up a ticket, you know, or go to like the .NET feedback forums, where they, thumb up, thumb down, right? If your idea gets thumbed up enough, the dev team will look at it. Just make sure you give them a lot of details. I've had bugs fixed. I've had my bugs fixed, even though they're similar to other bugs that had been declined, because people do the one thing we hate as developers, which is, well, it doesn't work, fix it, and then they go and they show like one error message, but they don't put like, here's how I reproduce the issue every single time. Here's a copy of my code, etc. It's amazing how people complain to Microsoft and then expect them to have a different standard for fixing a bug or reproducing a bug than we do. Yeah. So if you help things go right for Microsoft, I have found that they will take care of you. But if not, they get so many reports. They just don't have time. Yeah, if you have a one-liner, it's probably gonna be a thumbs down. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, there you go. It's under active development. Yeah. Ping Megan. Yeah, she'll get you connected to the Slack. Yeah. Yeah. And her email, I can give it to you. I mean, she's right here though. So, you can email her in person. Just hit send. Hit send. All right. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, then thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Yay.